video, getting some ideas about what movies to watch from our discussions. So, uh,
17, and we're discussing Between the Town.
so this movie, Between the Temples, actually did get a theatrical release. I don't know if any of you had a chance to see it in the theaters, but it did play around town a little bit, and then went onto the streaming sites, of course. Pretty new movie. 2024, as I said. It's directed by a guy named Nathan Silver, definitely a young Jewish fellow. It's been mostly a small independent filmmaker over the years. This is probably his biggest budget and definitely the biggest stars of any movies that he's made. But he's made quite a few, actually. He studied playwriting at New York University, and but had this interest in film and became a director, a writer and director. So he's the co-writer of this movie as well as being the director. Um, from 2012 to 2019, he made a movie every year. I think maybe or maybe not inspired by Woody Allen, who used to make a movie every single year, but just kind of a burst of creativity, perhaps. All of them are small independent films, uh, finds the financing and then somebody will pick it up for distribution. And this one is co-written by someone who's also written with him before, another Jewish fellow. His name is C. Mason Wells, who's originally from Chicago, actually, was born in Old Town in 1984, and grew up here in Chicago. So C. Mason Wells, yeah, there he is, the guy with the scarf there. So Jewish co-writer, Jewish director of this film. They met in New York City. I think C. Mason Wells lives in Brooklyn these days, but he did grow up here. And then the stars of the film are perhaps familiar to you. Jason Schwartzman, who plays the cantor in the movie, Ben Gottlieb. He's been around in movies for 25 years or so. His first big role was in the movie Rushmore, which is directed by Wes Anderson. Um, so he's playing a high school student back in that film. And he's been in 7 other Wes Anderson movies since then. I'm not sure if you guys are Wes Anderson fans or not. I definitely am. I really like Wes Anderson is an untrained filmmaker. He never went to any film school or anything like that. He just liked movies and he watched movies and he thought this is the way you make movies. And so he started making them that way. And his movies don't look like anybody else's movies. As a result, he's a very interesting guy. He's made feature films as well as animated ones, and makes them rather often with the same actors in roles in the movies. So kind of a stable of actors, and Jason Schwartzman is one of them. Um, he also he was in a TV series on cable TV a while back called Bored to Death, which is actually one of I love that TV show. It lasted a couple of seasons with him and Ted Danson. He actually Jason Schwartzman plays a character. He's a writer who uh, in his spare time moonlights as a private detective. He puts an ad up on um, not Facebook, Craigslist, and ends up getting jobs as a private detective on Craigslist. Zach Galifianakis was in it as well. Very strange, funny show. Liked it very much. He also was in the 4th season of the TV series of Fargo, where he plays actually um, an Italian mob boss or the son of a mob boss who becomes the mob boss. So I think it was season 4, actually, if memory serves. And he's been in a lot of other things going. way back. He had played a character in Freaks and Geeks, and he was in Slacker and Shop Girl. He even played King Louis the XVI in Sofia Coppola's movie of Marie Antoinette. And that's an interesting connection because he's actually part of the Francis Ford Coppola family. Yeah, Jason Schwartzman is the son of Talia Shire, who was in The Godfather and also in the movie Rocky, right? Best known perhaps for Rocky, playing Rocky's girlfriend in that movie back in 1976. Talia Shire married a movie producer named Jack Schwartzman, and that's how the Italian Francis Ford Coppola family ends up with a Jewish part of the family, the Schwartzman part of the family. And so that makes him the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, the cousin of Nicolas Cage, the cousin of Sofia Coppola, who directed him as King Louis the XVI and Marie Antoinette. Right. So an interesting, I guess you could call him a nepo baby, but he's a pretty talented actor and a musician as well. Um, so anyhow, so that's Jason Schwartzman, and the other main actor in this film is Carol Kane. Of course, we saw her going way back in our series. I think maybe the first term of our movies, we had Carol Kane in her Oscar-nominated role for Hester Street back in 1975. So she didn't win the Oscar, but she was nominated for that character, and it was one of her very first movie roles. She's been in a lot of movies in big and small parts. She won 2 Emmys for the TV series Taxi, where she played the girlfriend and then wife of the character played by Andy Kaufman. It's the name the people of undetermined origin, from some mythical country somewhere. Andy Kaufman's character was named Latka Gravis, and his girlfriend was Simka Doblitz, and that was Carol Kane. And she won 2 Emmys for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy Role for that. Um, and of course, you may remember her in The Princess Bride. She has a small role in The Princess Bride. She's married to Miracle Max, played by Billy Crystal, and they have one indelible scene in that. She was also in a more recent TV series, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, where she plays the landlord. Uh, and uh, and she also had parts in Annie Hall, um, The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson, Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. It's a pretty remarkable career. So, uh, certainly both Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane are Jewish, as is the actor who plays the rabbi in this movie. You're not so likely to recognize him. He has played small parts in movies before, but he's better known for not being seen. He is the voice of Triumph, the insult comic dog. So if you've ever seen, uh, yeah, Robert Smigel is his name. He also was right. He on Saturday Night Live. That's the guy, Robert Smigel. He used to do a cartoon on Saturday Night Live pretty much every week called TV Funhouse, which included the superheroes, the ambiguously gay duo, and other things that he did over the years. But he still Triumph the comic insult dog, if I'm not mistaken, started out on Conan O'Brien. Yeah, there's the dog, and has continued to make appearances on The Daily Show and things like that. And most frequently these days is seen in some pretty remarkable political satire, where Triumph the insult comic dog goes and interviews people at the Republican National Convention and things like that. It's pretty wild stuff, actually. He also the writer of some movies. He's written a couple of things for oh gosh, he wrote "Don't Mess with the Zohan," which has maybe we'll watch that one of these days.
That's good.
We'll see. So, um, but so and I think he plays the character, the rabbi, in a pretty interesting way, actually. So I think he's all right in front of the camera as well as behind it and doing voices and so on. So. Uh, an interesting movie. I like it. We'll see what you guys think about it in a couple of minutes. It begins with a tekiah gedola. Before you even see when I think it says Samuel Goldwyn, which is the company that picked it up for distribution, you can hear a tekiah gedola in the background. And throughout the movie, I don't know if you noticed the sound of the shofar occasionally mixing with car horns and a variety of other kinds of weird sounds that into a kind of a sound collage that makes a background to the whole movie. If the tekiah is if it's a sign of warning, something like that, as we understand it traditionally from history, it's used here to represent a soul in turmoil, right? And so I think it's one of the things that's interesting to me about this movie is the sound work is thoughtful, as is the camera work. I think the director does a pretty remarkable job. And the scene that stands out most in terms of the camera is when he switches to a handheld camera for, I don't know, how long does that scene take? 10, 15 minutes of the Shabbat dinner in the house at the end. It's all handheld camera, a little bit of things go out of focus every now and then, come back into focus. It's things that sometimes you might think are a little amateurish in a way, but I think they're also quite deliberate in this movie. It's almost like you're watching somebody's home video, right, of this Shabbat dinner. The way it sort of bounces around from one speaker to the next, and again gives you a kind of it gives you a sense of turmoil, right, in this scene, which as we're watching everything sort of fall apart, or maybe come together. It depends on your point of view, I suppose. But it takes you, it's like you're sitting at the table and you're looking this way and you're looking that way. You're looking at who's speaking. In time, I think it's a very clever technique, and that's one of the things to enjoy about this movie. So. It throws you curveballs rather regularly, I think, little surprises and moments that even the beginning where you have the character and his two moms talking to him about, we think you should see someone. And we all think, well, he's in mental anguish. He should see a psychiatrist or something like that. And he's thinking that too. And it turns out, no, no, you should see someone. We fixed you up on a date, right? And yes, it's a doctor. So, but not that kind of doctor. So, cosmetic surgeon. So, um, so there's a lot of little curveballs like that that they set him up on a J date apparently as well. They put up a J date profile for him and gotten him a date. He ends up having a drink with someone who admits to him that she's actually a Protestant. Um, by the way, that's Timothy Chalamet's sister playing that part. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So. Um, so there are all these little like twists and turns, of course, and then this uh, strange meeting that he has with Carla Kessler, or re-meeting, I guess we should say, that his childhood music teacher when he was a little Benny, and they meet only because he's so embarrassed by the fact that he's lost his voice since with uh, the the trauma in his life, and he runs out of the synagogue and goes off and starts drinking. And of all the things to get drunk on, what's he drink mudslides, right? Which is like, I don't know how you make a mudslide. I didn't look it up, but it's like, it's a chocolate ice cream drink. I mean, it's about, yeah, it's not something that you drink to get drunk. I mean, I think you'll probably throw up before you even get drunk drinking those. But at any rate, he ends up getting into an altercation with someone at the bar and gets hit in the face, and that's how he ends up reconnecting with his music teacher, who does in fact help him get his voice back. In exchange for teaching her Torah. And I don't think, I think the details in this movie are pretty good. I mean, um, the Torah portion is Kedoshim, is, somebody thought about that, I think. I don't, they just said, well, any words in Hebrew are going to do, So Kedoshim, among other things, has love your neighbor as yourself in it. And that's one of the verses that she's practicing and learning to sing. So, and it was also his portion as a child, and so there's a nice connection there. And this movie is, in a sense, making a case for loving your neighbor, I think, right? So, um, there's an interesting scene where he wanders into a Catholic church and has a conversation with a nervous priest. And then if I may, I don't think I'm projecting that onto the character. I think that the priest isn't quite sure what to do, actually, with this guy. He's come in, so
The rosary, you know what I mean?
yeah, he's like fretting,
Yeah.
fretting the rosary beads, and um, it's just an interesting thing. They have this conversation about what comes next, Um, so uh, and living a life led by the Spirit and the will of God. And Ben asks, "What about just doing good for the time that you're here?" Which is there's the detail down to the rabbi's license plate, right? Which is Tikkun Olam. Again, I mean, I don't think it's an accident that, somebody thought that through. And I'm assuming our director and writer, had the idea that the rabbi should have a license plate that says Tikkun Olam.
Good Jewish people advising on it because
I looked at the end because there usually are advisors often listed, and I didn't see anybody. So I think we may actually be dealing with somewhat knowledgeable Jews who made this movie.
all the music is Israeli
Right.
music, Mari Caspi, Arik Einstein.
Right, that I looked at too at the end. It's all, modern Israeli music with a couple of exceptions of American songs and things. Right, and the song that obviously comes from Carla Kessler's album, that she sang. So, um, but I think it's really interesting, And then these odd little details, which playing golf and with the rabbi and playing golf in his office and stuff. He's putting into a shofar. To, yeah, and he makes a point of saying, if anybody comes in, this is not a kosher shofar, right? And then it's not really, they're not Orthodox, right? It's not an Orthodox synagogue where he's singing for sure. I mean, men and women are sitting together. Yeah, they gave the page numbers for Mishkan Tefillah, right? With Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice the cover, but actually when they announce a page number, it's actually the prayer book that we use. So and the synagogue where it was filmed is a Reform synagogue. It happens that the Rabbi Emeritus there was a classmate of mine, Yael Romer. And did I write down the name of the temple? Yeah, Congregation Emmanuel in the Hudson Valley in New York. So, yeah, so if I get a chance sometime, I'll ask Yael about what it's like to have someone come and film a movie in your building. But I'm not sure how long she's been retired. So, um, but so a lot of little details. Yeah, so there it is. And we see the exterior a couple of times. We see the interior of the sanctuary. I mean, it's the synagogue scenes are definitely filmed there. So um, so I think so it's always interesting to see a place you recognize, right? So they make a point of talking about the first bat mitzvah a couple of times. That's actually a true detail that the first bat mitzvah was led by Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan at his home for his daughter in 1922. When 2022 rolled around, I told a lot of the girls here becoming bat mitzvah that it was the 100th anniversary of the bat mitzvah and that they should think about what that means, that, this has been going on for thousands of years for boys, but they're still pioneers. You're still a pioneer if you have a bat mitzvah in 2026, it seems to me. So, um, but so there's a lot of is that actually a picture then? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
So,
okay, this is beautiful. Yeah.
and then there's the scene of where he eats meat and milk together for the first time. As I said, so he's not an Orthodox Jew, but he eats in a restaurant and he's gonna eat a hamburger. So he's not kosher, but as we sometimes talk about, all of us relate to kashrut in some way or another. So his way of doing it, like there are a fair number of Reform Jews like this, I think, who the one thing they don't do is eat meat and milk together, right? Um, so that's a moment. Celine, if she was here, could tell the story of when I accidentally ate a shrimp, and tells people I had to wipe my mouth out like a small child. That I had no idea it was supposed to be a vegetarian thing, and it had shrimp in it. So anyhow, so I get that. I get the experience that he has, and I think they do a great job of that. Right? So, but I like these weird little details, like who's Mildred in that, right? It's Mildred's special, and he asks the waiter if he's Mildred, and he says, not in daylight, right? It's not during daylight hours, something like that. And then later on, when they're, is there something wrong in the food? And that he's Jewish and he doesn't eat meat. Oh, and you learn something new every day. And he says, I'm a big fan of your people, right? And to which the cantor responds, thanks for your service, because we've established that he's a military veteran. So it's a quirky script with these, and there's moments that feel improvised. I'm not sure they are. I can't find enough detail about it to know. But there are these moments that feel so natural that it feels like improvisation. The scene where she's trying to have him do a belly breath is a good example of that for me. Um, that it's feels very natural and real as they talk. So some of that with the rabbi when they're out on the golf course and it's like that. And there's this discussion. I forget who the rabbi's even talking to about Yom HaShoah and a baking event, right? And he said it's a sweet spot, the Holocaust and baking. He said, so I don't know. It's a very strange comment. It's detail.
The Holocaust.
Right. It's a fundraiser for restoring the Holocaust Torah. We, by the way, have a Holocaust Torah that could use some restoration. So I resemble that remark in some ways. It actually our Holocaust scroll looks great. It's great for reading. The backside of the scroll in those days was treated with something. It's almost like a whitewash, and that flakes off when we take it out and read it. So it needs some repair. Anyway, that's a digression. So Well, let me open the floor up to you guys and see what did you see? Did you notice anything special about it? What do you think about the film?
Susan.
Susan Melick? Oh, that's a hand
Yeah.
that's up my screen. So,
So can you hear me?
yes.
Um, well, I liked the movie, but I thought the character of Ben Gottlieb was kind of a weak man and kind of wimpy,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, between the temples meant his brain. I kept waiting for there to be another temple. When-
Yeah.
and then I finally figured out what this meant.
Right.
Um, but and at the end, when you, I get, I can't watch anything with a handheld camera because it makes me sick to my stomach.
Hmm.
So I kind of had to look away in spots
Yeah.
where they did that. Um, but I thought it was interesting.
The
Uh,
handheld camera makes her sick to her stomach. Actually,
yeah,
let me see if
it.
I can make this louder.
But I did think it was an interesting film, and I thought that his acting was superb.
Yeah.
Um, he's obviously a very fine actor. And I got a kick out of the rabbi, as you said,
Yeah.
hitting golf balls into his chauffeur.
Yeah. Right.
I
And
mean,
cheating on
it
the golf
seemed,
course too, right? He cheats. He
yeah,
drops
it
a
was
ball out of his
just,
pants leg, you
it,
know.
it,
So,
uh, it seemed like he was quite irreverent.
right. And I have to be honest, as a rabbi and a human being, I don't object to that portrayal, right? I think it's kind of, um, all of us are human beings. We're a mixed
Right,
bag of, we're not the worst thing we've done. We're not the best thing we're done. We're somewhere in the middle. And, so if the rabbi drops a golf ball out of his pants leg, you know, seems to be playing by himself anyway. I mean, what's the difference, right? So, um,
right,
so that's between him and God, it has nothing to do with us. So I kind of like that character's kind of irreverence, yeah. So
yeah.
I hear you about the handheld camera. I mean, I think it's deliberately meant to make you a little queasy, right? I mean that's right. I mean, the whole scene is what's the word my kids use? Cringe, right? And I think that's very deliberate, right? Even with a handheld camera, it doesn't have to bounce as much as it did, right? So it's very deliberate. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure.
I found the humor in the whole movie, but I couldn't figure out the title. So I went on ChatGPT
Uh-huh.
to explain the title,
Yeah.
Between Temples. In your temple, your
Right.
head, what's going on in your head, which I found very amusing also. But I also, between that dinner and the dinner with her son and daughter,
Yes.
daughter-in-law and the two kids and him in the restaurant.
Right.
I found that very informative and interesting. It's so interesting how we can't accept somebody that somebody else cares about.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. And so, yeah, I think you guys are absolutely right to see between the temples here. From a Jewish perspective, between the temples represents a particular time period in Judaism, right? From the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians in 586 BCE until the building of the second temple um, in 522 BCE, something like that, under Persian rule. So and to say that time period is considered in Jewish history as a time of mourning, right? The time of grief for the destruction of the temple. So, and this movie is also in some ways about mourning, right? We've got characters who are in mourning. And when you say, Susan, about Ben feeling weak to you, I mean, I get that, but I also give him the benefit of the doubt for having lost his wife, in what appears to have been a fairly complicated relationship to begin with, but uh, and to lose her tragically in a strange accident, as he describes it later on. And when she's 2/3 of the way through writing a very lengthy book, apparently about him, right? So it's a, I think, how long does it take, right? To get over something like that. And particularly to do it in a very public sort of way, I think can be very hard. So the idea that he has lost his voice, which is both sort of a literal and a symbolic idea, right? Is that he, um, has lost his ability to sing and lead the congregation in prayer, which is a response to grief in some ways. But he's also lost his own agency, right? He's lost his voice in that way too, at least until close to the end of the movie, where he gets some of that agency back. It's another one of those movies that sort of makes you wonder what happens next, for these characters. Is this a lasting relationship or not? I mean, who knows? The movie doesn't take us there. I think it's an interesting point out early in the movie that the first bat mitzvah took place at home because the synagogue wasn't a congenial place for that to happen back 100 years ago. And then, as it turns out, after that Shabbat dinner, it's not a congenial place to do it 100 years later either. So they end up having a bat mitzvah at home. And of course, you probably noticed that as she starts to sing her Torah portion, he starts to sing along with her. And so symbolically, regaining his voice, right? And at that dinner, since by admitting to the feelings that he was having and saying them out loud, he was able to take back some of that agency, right? So, yeah, did you notice something else?
Talk about the rabbi's daughter and the cantor
Yeah,
and their relationship and the mothers. I found that very interesting, that whole relationship of the mothers trying to put her on him,
right.
him on her.
Yeah,
And then the rabbi all thought that that was gonna be it,
right.
and it wasn't at the dinner table.
Yeah,
Yeah, very informative.
yeah. And actually, I feel very sympathetic towards the rabbi's daughter movie, even though she's a little bit unusual herself, right? So, but the scene at the cemetery kind of confirms that. But on the other hand, she is also, she's grieving in a different kind of way. Not for someone who's died, but for a lost relationship and trying to get her feet back on the ground with that. And perhaps we're to understand that that she's not unhappy necessarily about the way this is turning out around the Shabbat dinner table, that she has taken back some agency herself through, uh, even though she's sort of acting a part, acting the part of his deceased wife, right? And her, by reading her novel and listening to the voicemails, but at any rate, to the extent that she might feel used in this relationship, I feel bad for her. But maybe she's gaining some agency too. Of course, but it is really hard to tell in that Shabbat dinner scene whether she's laughing or crying. It's some of both, right? And maybe that tells us something about life too. I mean, laughter and tears sometimes come together in the same moment. Yeah. So um, that's what I got out of it. I'm,
Out to dinner with Carol Kane's son.
Oh, yes.
Of the children. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be a psychiatrist, right? Didn't she say that he is, and he can't accept anything that's going on. Admittedly, someone coming downstairs in your pajamas is probably a bit of a surprise, when you go visit your mother, who's been single for a long time. But So that's a bit of a surprise to him, but he certainly doesn't rebound from that surprise and treats her, I think, rather badly, and treats Ben badly, but treats his own mother badly. The idea that, he's maybe the least sympathetic character in the movie, right?
He got out, he had a stroke,
Right.
so.
Or whatever it is that she has. I mean, it's more like an anxiety attack, I think, than a stroke, right? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the movie makes that clear. I mean, she's in pretty good shape for someone who had a stroke, right? But she says something about this as she did say she had three minor strokes back before, right? Um, so certainly getting a call from the hospital might cause someone to rush to her aid, and he doesn't. So, um, right.
That, I couldn't stand that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's yeah, he's not a pleasant character. Yeah. So what else?
Jason was very good at interacting with the kids.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying you can pass out the candy, like he
Right.
was totally right on with that.
Yeah.
Stu has
He's
his,
I like him in the scene with the kids in the B'nai Mitzvah class too.
it's great.
Yeah.
Stu.
Hey, Stu, it's nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
So I found the characters that were supposed to be Jewish to be a little off of what my idea of a Jewish person should be in that kind of role.
Yeah.
Certainly with the rabbi, certainly with the cantor from the opening scenes, he wasn't able to deal with, not having a voice, not able to sing, that type of thing. And then Carole King kind of comes in, and it was like watching Harold and Maude, that movie, from the next 10
Yes.
minutes. At least that was my feeling. And she was the only one to me that seemed like she had her act together. She was very focused. She knew what she wanted to do, how she was going to do it. She knew her strengths, she knew her weaknesses. And she just moved through it, where the cantor was,
Yeah.
kind of lost the whole time.
So, Stu, maybe you're just lucky to have, well-adjusted rabbis and cantors in your life, right? To
How
not
would I
play.
know? How would I know that? Where would I have gotten those role models from?
Yeah, I don't know. Uh,
Ike, are you a golfer?
I am not a golfer, actually. So, um, but so I mean it sincerely in a way that you're perhaps measuring these people against well-adjusted folks that you hang around with because they're the ones you like to hang around with, right?
I don't think I know any well-adjusted people, but
Yeah,
I understand where you're coming from.
right. So this is a rare movie about Jews in the sense that it's written and directed by Jews and has Jewish actors playing the Jewish parts. In fact, there's even a joke about that, right? I mean, is that it's the rabbi's daughter who's been an actress, right? And she's getting passed over for Jewish roles, right? And that's typical, right? So it's kind of rare actually what we've got here. So I can't speak to the authenticity issue exactly, but um, in terms of the details, they got the details better than most movies about Jews, right? Whether there are rabbis out there who play golf with their shofar, I can't say.
But
But yeah,
just the portrayal of him cheating on the golf course.
yeah,
when he's not in any kind of competition,
Right.
um, just um didn't highlight his actions.
Right. Right.
With the cantor just seemed befuddled the whole time. And he just didn't seem to me to get his act together at all.
Right. So we can only wonder if, getting his voice back is the harbinger of getting his act together and being able to go back to what he was. And we see hints of him, of his success when he's teaching kids, that he still seems to be able to teach them and connect to them. So he's got some things going for him. But I don't know. I've met a lot of people over the years who, when they can't do what they used to do, it becomes a very serious problem, and they're really lost, And so I can only imagine what it's like to be a cantor who can't sing, right? And I've known a couple over the years, so it's been very hard as they go through illness. The ones I know, it's real physical illness, but have to sort of let go of the thing that defined them for years and years, right? Which is their voice. So I can certainly understand being befuddled in that situation. So, but I certainly won't make a case that these are all, good, well-adjusted. I would say that they're kind of normal, though. As you say, you don't know any well-adjusted people, right? I mean, I think these folks are kind of normal. And Carol Kane is definitely, you're right. I think the one who has had the most time to process her own grief, the one who has had to deal with being alone. Um, she's the most together of these characters, and she is nothing but honest and upright at his mother's home. She's thankful to have been included. She's not really expecting what's coming. She just thinks she's been invited for Shabbat dinner. So the fact that says I need some time to process this, that's a pretty reasonable thing too. And by the way, the parallel of the fact that, Ben's wife died in a fall, and then towards the end of the movie, he takes a fall and she has to rescue him, bring him inside, right? I mean, we're talking about Between the Temples, is all about your brain and how it works and how it doesn't work. Those parallels are clearly deliberate as well, right? And so again, in terms of the structure of the movie, I like that they bring that up, earlier in the movie, and then come back to it at the end. It's something like the same thing that they did with the bat mitzvah at home. It's something like the thing, I think it was Chekhov famously said something of a gun appears in the first act of a play, it has to go off in the second act, right? So it wasn't just thrown away, this side, how his wife died. It wasn't just thrown away how the first bat mitzvah happened. Those things come back and get recalled in the second part of the movie. Yeah,
On one more point, and nothing against you, Rabbi, because I have, I'm very much respect for you, but I thought the rabbi's character,
yeah,
when they talk about him, doing the golf ball into the shofar,
yeah,
he also didn't want to give her a bat mitzvah, but then
right,
Ben said, he's willing to give a large contribution to the temple. And then also he talked about his mother's,
Mhm.
one of his mothers is named, one part of the temple's named for the mother that converted.
yeah,
So I think this rabbi, I don't know,
yeah. And I'm some.
whoever wrote it, did have that much respect for rabbi.
No, maybe not. I it's
You know, so that don't do that. So, I hope.
right, yeah. So it's right, like um I'm going to just write it off as it's human. He's human, right? So is it pretty? No, you know, if I played golf, I don't think I would cheat, you know, and I certainly don't. But I will say there are times when people come to you with a somewhat out of the box idea, and you have to think your way around. Well, okay, is this okay? Speeding up the bat mitzvah schedule, is this okay? I mean, I've had that experience of having to think that through, and he does sort of well, she's a teacher. It's not surprising that she's a quick study. He finds a way of rationalizing the thing that he's being asked to do, right? So I think that's very human, right? We can rationalize. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the word. Yeah, could I do without it in the movie? Yes, I could. But I do think it makes him even more human in some ways. Yeah. Yeah.
When he is concerned about his congregation continuing, you can understand him from his family. He
Mhm.
he doesn't have money. The congregation to pay,
Right.
and these people won't have. So it really is.
Yeah.
But I wonder, what's the character at the table who can say, well, it took me a year, why are you going to be able to do this? in
Yeah.
2 weeks? I don't know who that character is.
So it's one of the mothers, right? So he has two mothers. One of them appears to be his biological mother, and the other is a Jew by choice, right? And she talks about doing her bat mitzvah when she was 33, I think she says. 35, 45, 35. And that it took her a whole year of study and so on. So why is this different? So
That she was very knowledgeable
uh-huh.
during the Shabbat dinner, that
Right.
she knew airs and so on.
Right. And says a woman of valor uh, for her wife. Yeah, So very, very interesting. Again, the details are interesting. But so that's who it was the other mother who thinks that, yeah. Susan?
Yeah, I had to walk out for a couple of minutes, so I don't know if I missed this, but I don't think you or anybody has discussed when he visited the Catholic Church.
I mentioned it briefly, but yeah, what did you think of it? What did you see in that scene?
I thought it was kind of odd, but I guess it was his curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm and maybe sort of grasping at straws, right? Too. I mean,
Yeah,
is there?
looking for if his beliefs were real or what other people were believing in.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's an interesting scene. Um,
Mhm.
I'm surprised they didn't go into, I think Christianity has a much more concrete vision of the afterlife. And, they say you'll be in a better place.
Mm.
And I thought that's what they were going for, and they didn't quite, the priest didn't say
yeah, well, he does talk about that a little bit. He talks about heaven and hell and
Right.
things like that, and that's and I think Ben thinks about it for a minute, and that's when he says something. What about just doing good for the time that you're here, right?
Right, right.
So which is certainly a very Jewish way of looking at the world, right? The afterlife takes care of itself, whatever it is. It's not up to us really. So just doing good for the time that you're here, is I think what he aims to do. I mean, we don't really see him do anything, I think, deceitful. I mean, he's more acted on than acting, in that sense. kind of a Hamlet figure, and right, he's not really sure where to turn or how to go forward. So, but um, but he's not out to revenge anybody or doing anything like that. I mean, it's really much more, um, if there's someone who doesn't, I his moral center is there, and he's just trying to get back to it, right? So,
I think his relationship with clothes, that he wore someone else's pajamas, he wore his mother's pantsuit.
yeah,
And she goes, it looks good.
yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. He's trying on some different personas, right? And I think that's fair to say, even when he goes out and gets drunk after. He also wears his tallis a lot. Yeah,
Times.
right, right. So in a movie that's got so many details right, I can't help but think that that's deliberate, right? I don't think they know that, yeah, he wouldn't wear his tali in the bar or wherever, the restaurant, wherever he's wearing it. They want him in it, right? So, um, so, uh, well, thank you all. Thanks. Any last words on Between the Temples?
Our last movie is next week. It's
Rose. It's called Rose from 20. Now, there are a lot of things named Rose. This one's going to be a little harder to find, but it's out there on Amazon. You want Rose from 2021 from France. So you found it at the library? Great. So um, so it's so I mean, I found it without too much trouble. Susan, you had a question about it?
No, but I wanted to let people know that I found the movie we watched, this one, Between the Temples. It was on Netflix, and if you have a Netflix subscription, it didn't cost anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this
So,
Rose you want.
right, that's the one. It's
You
and
said
again,
Rose from France?
yes. And again, we've got a movie. I think you'll see why I parallel these two when you look at it. But we do have a movie that's written and directed by Jews, and starring a Jew. In this case, I think they may all be Sephardic Jews. Really. So, but there's some, yeah, just Rose, not the Rose. Okay, don't mistake it for the Rose, which is,
That's what you-
yeah. So, I hope you find it interesting, and we'll get a chance to talk about it next week. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure, my pleasure. Nice to see you all. Glad you're back on camera, Susan. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.